3, 2, 1.
Hi, I'm Roy Fox, owner of Fox Parachute Services. I'm D2252. I started my military jumping in June of 1961. I started sport parachuting in early 1964, shortly after I got out of the Army. But today I'm going to tell you about a program I worked on for the Air Force in the mid to late 1960s. It was a program where we mid-air recovered the early drones, reconnaissance drones that the U.S. had. At that time it was a classified program, nothing classified about it today, but in those days, because it was classified, we had to do our flying out over the Pacific Ocean, and even though we were Air Force, I was a civilian contractor, even though we were Air Force, we were flying out of a Navy facility, Point Mugu Naval Air Station up the coast from Los Angeles. And we had C-130s that launched these vehicles, which had an empty weight of about 2,500 pounds, and they were launched from a pylon under the wing of the C-130, sort of the same way you would, a fighter might drop a bomb from its wing. This drone would fly off, do its reconnaissance mission. Then after that, it would come back, and we would mid-air retrieve them with a H-53 helicopter, which is a big Sikorsky helicopter, commonly known as the Super Jolly Green Giant. We started with a Jolly Green Giant, but then moved up to the Super. This helicopter was equipped with some grappling hooks that came off a tailgate, hanging out the back end. We had 3 hooks back there. 2 of them were on poles and 1 of them floated in between. When the drone would come back from flying its mission, it would deploy its drogue chute, which brought it down from high altitude, and then at about 18,000 feet, 16 to 18,000 feet, it would deploy its recovery system. The recovery system consisted of a 100-foot diameter flat circular parachute, just a big round, in other words, and from the vehicle to the apex of that parachute there was a line that went around and up and attached to the apex of that parachute. That took about 150 feet, and then another 225 feet above that we had a small parachute, small heavily reinforced parachute, which we called an engagement parachute. So as the drone is descending under its parachute, we would set up a pattern and fly in and snag that thing as it was descending. We would snag the small parachute, 24-foot parachute, and I should speak up here and say I wasn't flying the helicopter. I was one of the guys in the back end doing the retrieval. So anyhow, once the extraction parachute was engaged, it would break loose from this big 100-foot parachute because that was too much drag for the helicopter. So I had to rig it up so that that would break away. It would break away, fall off into the ocean. The hooks that were attached to the helicopter on these poles that stuck out the back end, something like this, like grappling hooks, sort of like this, kind of in a track position, they made their engagement. They had a line that went from them up to the belly of the helicopter, went up through the floor of the helicopter, and were attached to a winch. So as we're bringing this 2,500-pound payload up to the velocity of the helicopter, the winch is paying out in reverse, but with some brakes applied. So when all this finished, this payload was about 400 feet below the belly of the helicopter. Then we would slowly reel it up under the helicopter and come back and land with it. Then the equipment that was on board, be there whatever kind of sensors that were on there, cameras or whatever, would be removed and the data would be processed.
You are a parachuting pioneer, Roy.
Sort of.
Thanks for that great story, mate.
Thank you.